Hey everybody, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. This is for Monday, February 27th, 2023. For those of you guys who did not see the Sunday show, I am in Costa Rica. That is why weird backdrop. And I'm recording this on QuickTime because I can't access StreamYard. The internet's just not strong enough to support that. So all the production elements will be back as normal coming next week, but still have movies, still have obviously the movies, still have QuickTime, still have video. We'll still have audio as well for you guys on the audio side. So that's all going to be there. Don't worry. It's just a little bit different presentation this week. So no intro. On today's show, Ion. Are they going to get involved with the Pac-12? What in the hell is going on? McMurphy says maybe. Mandel says no. People are asking, hey, what do you think about this? Ray Anderson, the athletic director at Arizona State, had some comments too. So this situation just keeps getting weirder and weirder. We'll have more on this as we go through the show today. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you guys want better production, it's coming. Don't worry. Every single day, 5 days a week, usually 5+ days a week. We're usually 6 days a week. Big 12 content. If you guys want 7 days a week, make sure you follow me on Twitter on Saturday morning. I have the bread truck. We backed that thing up, the Big 12 picks for college hoops. Really good season for us so far when it comes to those. So you guys want the Locked On Big 12 picks for hoops, make sure you guys check it out. Football, I was like just above 500 this year for basketball. We are 25, 15, and 1 against the spread picking Big 12 hoops this year, so we are making you all some money on the season. Make sure you guys check that out. All right, let's get to it. So I am flying on Friday from Little Rock, Arkansas to Richmond, Virginia, and I get to the airport and in Charlotte, and I see one of the strangest messages that I've seen in like a long time. So I get sent this about what's happening with Ion. And I had not heard, I guess, is Ion, maybe it's a TV channel. I know they own a company, but Ion getting involved. So Brett McMurphy says Apple still has not made a formal offer for Pac-12's media rights. But Ion Television, has emerged as a potential Pac-12 partner, sources told Action Network. Ion TV is owned by EW Scripps Company, which has 61 local TV stations nationwide and launched Scripps Sports this year. Now, guys, Scripps Sports, I am not familiar with that at all. I have never watched, Scripps Sports once. I'm not familiar with it. At all. And I know that they own a bunch of, companies. But I'm not familiar with anything they do in that line of work. And so obviously people are like, why do you keep covering the Pac-12? Well, not many of you are. You guys get it. But some people are like, why are you doing this? Why are you covering this? Guys, look, there is a chance that the future of the Big 12, they might have some schools that are in the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 and the Big 12 have been tied together, for a lot of this. And so I think it's really fascinating, interesting, because the Big 12 comes in, after the Pac-12 goes to the market, the Big 12 comes in, and they get a television deal done, not in short order, but pretty close to it, right? With Fox and ESPN. And now all of a sudden we are hearing, it started with ESPN and Amazon. We heard CBS is out in the Pac-12. We heard that, according to Andrew Marchand, New York Post, Amazon is lukewarm. So is ESPN, so is Fox, and he doesn't even think they're involved on the Pac-12. And then it goes to, Apple TV Plus we've heard about. And now we're also hearing about Ion. And so you think about all this stuff, like that could have been the Big 12. That really could have been. Now, it depends. I mean, I think the Big 12's product from a basketball standpoint and also having a team in the national championship game this year, obviously, it elevated where the product is as a whole. But I think, you have to think about it from one perspective. Hey, this could have been us. This could have been the Big 12 conference. This could have been, a situation of where they were if things went the wrong way. Maybe the Pac-12 would be the ones with a TV deal. I think there is a world in which the Pac-12 gets a deal done. Maybe it's still with Amazon, ESPN, whatever, but, maybe ESPN's not as hot for the Big 12, or, maybe it's a Fox, ESPN, Amazon combination. ESPN, Fox aren't as hot for the Big 12. Now, once again, I do think the Big 12's overall level of competition adds to that. I'm not sure how you didn't watch this season of Big 12 football and watch eventual national championship contender TCU play Kansas. And College Game Day was there, and it was a tremendous game between a program that has been the worst in the Big 12 and a school in TCU that has come in and has come from the Mountain West, been all over the place, and went to the national championship game this season. I don't know how you don't, watch that and think, oh my God, this conference is providing it all, right? OU and Texas in the league still, yes, but did not make the Big 12 championship game. They provide ratings, but the competition this year, it came from a lot of the Texas at times, but OU didn't provide much in way of competition for the teams, K-State, the Big 12 championship game, beat them, and obviously TCU did as well, and Baylor beat them. Texas. Everybody at the top of the league kind of had their way. Texas Tech beat them. Basically, everybody towards the top of the league, beat OU in 2023, 2022, 2023 football season. So, that overall level of competition is huge. And I've talked about this with a lot of people, but the idea that there is no Colorado and there is no Stanford and there is no Cal, there is no Arizona, when they've been down. There's none of that in this league. There's none of that in a week-to-week basis. Oh, yeah, they have the best basketball league in the country. So basically, you can pencil them in for 5 weekday games that are great, 5 weekend games that are great. And, hey, also those teams are going to show up for you pretty big in March. 3 of them were in your national championship game on a Monday night. 2 of them had won it in the last couple of years. So they're presenting this overall product that is providing a whole lot of interest, a whole lot of excitement for a lot of people. And that's why I think, yes, it could have been us, in some variation, but I'm still pretty confident in what the Big 12 brings. Also, the part of the country that it's in also, I think, helps it a lot because we have awesome fans who all care about their athletics. Some of you all are pro fans too, but a lot of you all have in the football, basketball, deeply ingrained in your team, your school's fan base. But this right now is showing a, even further concern or further, example. And look, we should mention too that Stuart Mandel came back on what Brett McMurphy was saying, and he said, I have not heard that to be the case. He said, Ion Scripps Sports is not involved in the Pac-12 TV negotiations. A source with direct knowledge of the situation tells The Athletic. So somebody on Twitter asked me the other day, hey, Josh, where do you come down on this? I respect both Stuart and I respect Brett. Brett nailed the fact that this was, after ESPN reported, hey, OU and Texas done talking, not going to happen for right now. Brett said, whoa. They're still talking. It's just there's, some gaps there. And lo and behold, they get a deal done there. Stewart has been on some of the, the upset athletic directors and some of the ire from some folks on the Pac-12 side. But also he has been I think it's pretty noted, like Stewart is a bit more of a Pac-12 lean. I think he noted that at one point he said the Big 12 would kind of be lucky to be in the AAC range, or he saw them more in the AAC range and thought that the Big 12, wouldn't get as much money. Now, that is opinion, and I'm actually fine with journalists having opinions. So maybe it's just a misfire on opinion-wise, but he's pretty plugged in. And as far as his reporting goes, I never feel like when I look at the Stuart Mandel report, I'm getting something that I feel like is erroneous or false. So I respect the reporting of both of these gentlemen. I'm sure they're talking to people in the know. And I would not be shocked if somebody's getting lied to by somebody that they trust when it comes to this, right? I mean, these guys probably have sources, in places. I would say there might be folks who want to get out of the Pac-12 that might leak something like, we're at the Ion stage. Ion and Scripps are here in the business. That's not good news. And there are also folks who are like, no, they're not part of this. We're still talking. But the Ion Scripps thing, I think that highlights kind of where we are in all of this. To me, the more important part is this. Brett says that the Apple TV has not made a formal offer yet to the Pac-12. So while Andrew Marchand says that they've emerged as a potential candidate, that is obviously something that can be true. An offer is not there, and we could still be in the exploratory stages. But also, we're in a pretty time-sensitive period because ADs can get antsy, presidents can get antsy, coaches, players, athletic, they can all get antsy. And if you're George Kliavkoff and company, how much time do you realistically have to hammer out what you see as the most desirable deal that benefits your schools and benefits the networks and it looks great? Or do you get strong-armed into a crappy deal for a few years just because you're trying to hold on to this thing? And I think that is where kind of the desperation part of this comes in. Like Apple TV Plus, not saying it's a horrible platform. They've got partnerships with two major professional leagues. MLS obviously is not as big of a league as Major League Baseball, but they have weekly Major League Baseball games. There were some problems with some of the broadcasts they had on MLB TV. Sure. It's pretty clear, though, that Apple TV's goal, their model here, is they want be involved in a lot of sports, but they're picking sports with the built-in fan bases, right? MLS, you've got a hardcore fan base that if you have most of their games, I'm going to have to get that and I'm going to have to watch. Same thing for Major League Baseball. Like, I'm a huge Mets fan. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't, get the Apple TV Plus trial so I could watch the one or two Mets games that were on there, and maybe it coincided with when I was watching Ted Lasso. But the problem is overall, and the same thing for college sports too. Like that's where they want to go. But it does hurt your visibility. When you hear Apple TV, the number one thing people think of is Ted Lasso. That is the number one thing. If you hear HBO Max, now you might think of, depending on who you are, Succession, The Wire, name your The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, whatever your show is. You might think of that. You don't think of the fact that now that they're showing U.S. men's and women's soccer games on HBO Max. You don't think of that. That's not it's not gripping. Now, I understand the angle that some of these places are going. They're trying to get the fan bases. It's worked for ESPN Plus, but ESPN Plus is still providing you games on the major networks, right? There's if Iowa State plays a game on ESPN Plus, they're still going to be playing a game on ESPN at some point in time. ESPN2, ESPNU, you're still, ABC. You're still going to be playing, if your team's good enough, you're still going to be playing in the desired time slots on desired channels, although you're going to give some up. Apple TV's got none of that. It is exclusively going to be on Apple TV Plus. And I've mentioned this before, I'll say it again. The issue I have with that is I'm a multi-screen guy on a college football Saturday. I know a lot of you all are out, you guys are out there as well. If you want to toggle between games, for me, toggling is big. If we have multiple Big 12 games on a cable at the same time, I'm gonna be toggling between both. I might have laptop on one, whatever's happening at that time, right? If there's a big game that we all need to be paying attention to, whatever it is. But I'm somebody that wants to toggle. You cannot toggle with Apple TV and Amazon the same way you can with the ESPN family of networks. You just can't. Now, that's something people have to deal with over time, but the issue is we're not talking about Ohio State, Penn State here. Hell, we might be talking about Oregon, Washington. Sure, that's one game. But outside of Oregon and Washington meeting up, what games are you going to put on Apple TV Plus that people are like, I have to see that? Is the Pac-12 putting stuff on that network every single week that casual fans, if you're a casual observer of the Big 12 or Pac-12, and I'm a diehard football fan, college football fan, but Pac-12 games, guys, I observe rather casually. I'm not going to put that one on. I'm not going to pay $5.99 a month. Just not going to do it. If you give me Utah and Oregon and Washington, that's great. But there are other ways to watch games. Wink, wink. You guys know what I'm saying. And for the two if there's 3 Pac-12 games I want to watch. If I want to watch Utah and Oregon, Utah and Washington, and Oregon and Washington, right? If I want to watch those 3 teams play, those are 3 games. I can find a way to watch those games. I mean, get a free trial, whatever it is, like of Apple TV Plus. I might do it one time, right? If they play twice in a month, I might say, hey, this is the month I want to do it. I'll just do it for a month and then cancel it. There's ways to do it. But is Apple TV Plus a platform that people are going to be dialed into? I'm here to watch Ted Lasso, but Colorado is playing Stanford in basketball. No, that's not going to happen. Sorry. I know, end of the season. Think about how many good games are happening on the ESPN family of networks. And we've got rivalries going on. I'm not going to, I went out of my way this year to watch the end of Oregon State, Oregon. It was on linear cable. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch Oregon State, Oregon if it's on Apple TV Plus. There are other games I can be watching, and there's always going to be other games you can be watching, unless it's 10:15 at night. At that point in time, a lot of us had a few, and we just kind of leave what's on ESPN. I think my whole point with all of this is, where do these streaming partners fit in with casual viewership of the sport? They might be the future, but they're not there yet. If you all feel differently, if your viewing habits are separate, let me know. Let us know in the comments. Like the video. Tell all of your friends in the comments section. Sure, there'll be a good debate about this. But it gets down to the next, crux of this issue, which is discussion about what's the money look like. If like Apple TV is like your only real option to get near the money you want, sure, you might take it. But what's that gap look like? And I've said this a bunch. I've said it with no inside information. But to me, when you get to the tens of millions of dollars, so if we're talking about the gap between the Pac-12 and the Big 12, let's just say in television revenue per school, it's 31.5 for the Big 12 and 25 for the Pac-12. Still at 6.5. But what happens when the extra money from CFP and bowls starts to roll in from NCAA tournament appearances? Plus, like, think about this, guys. The Big 12 is going to double the amount of money in the first weekend that the Pac-12 makes on the NCAA tournament because of how many teams are in the games. And if the Pac-12 starts losing teams, they're only going to have 3 of them in the tournament, most likely, then they're really going to be in trouble. And so, like, the Big 12's payout is going to be larger in that respect when it comes to television market. Not television, but just the overall payout, the distribution is going to be more for the Big 12 when it comes to that stuff. They're going to take a step forward. I know they take a bigger step forward. OU and Texas were still there, but they're going to get more money than they were before. Once again, like with the way television contracts are scaled, the Big 12 would be getting a lot more if OU and Texas were still there, but they're going to be getting more. They're climbing up there. They're going to outpace the Pac-12. And there is going to be a conversation amongst some of these Pac-12 schools about what's it matter to us? Because they're going to pay a financial price for staying together. What does that financial price get you when your next television contract is up? Because unless Pac-12 teams do a whole lot of winning really important football, mostly football, and basketball games, then they're going to be in a difficult position. They're going to be in a spot basically like they were before. And we don't know what the future holds, especially in the streaming space. There's a whole lot that can change. But we have to consider the fact that some of these athletic directors are not going to be fully comfortable with where this is heading. And once again, that's when the Big 12 could step in. And I think that is something that, with this, once again, Ion TV, I don't know if they're involved. I don't know if Scripps is involved. I have not heard of Scripps Sports. Maybe I'm a dumbass for not knowing that. You all can tell me. Let me know. Josh, how have you not heard of Scripps Sports? I haven't. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But the fact that that we're at a point now where we're trying to shoot down Ion Sports reports and we're having to deal with the idea that, like, okay, Apple TV Plus might be a main carrier for Pac-12 games, tells you about the situation. It's not a positive one. And it's something that Ray Anderson, he enforced that. He reiterated that point in an interview he did with 24/7 Sports. He also noted, he's saying some stuff that, look, we're going to take a deal. It's going to be below our expectations, is what he said. But I am expecting them to get it. I'm expecting us to get a deal done. That is on par with what I've been saying. I believe they get a deal done. But the one thing we have to consider is, like I just mentioned before, where does this deal set you up for the next deal? Because that's where Brett Yormark, I think, has this advantage. He is clearly looking ahead to that next deal. His deal is done. Their deal is not. And so why don't you maybe come over and join us? Why don't you come to the Big 12 conference? We might have opportunities down the line for you to be on television and also in a conference that we know is going to be together. You don't know about the Pac-12 being together. It is a slippery slope that they're on right now. It feels like they're a couple, breakaways away from being in a obvious significant gap. And I think that is something that we have to focus in on. But also Ray Anderson mentioning it's been a really frustrating process. And he says that we're not in control right now. And look, was the Big 12 totally in control with OU and Texas? No, they were not. Were they totally in control this time around? No, they were not. But they ended up on 2 cable networks where they wanted to be, where they have been in the past. And they ended up there for what people believe to be a reasonable price. And so they clearly had more control than the Pac-12 did. And I guess in some ways, ESPN and Fox could have pitted these guys together in some kind of race to the bottom. But like, you know what? We don't really want any of you guys. They could have, said like, we'll hold off on renegotiating right now. But no, they jumped in. They took the deal, and as did the Big 12 schools, and off they went. And so I think you have to feel better about the future. While you might get your short term locked up, how much is the comfort of being in a conference with schools that you've known for a while mattered to you? Utah and Colorado are interesting because they both come into the conference, Colorado from Big 12 and Utah from obviously other places. And security and like wanting to go to the next level has meant a lot to them. We talked last week to JT Wister still. He mentioned how much winning Utah could be doing or is doing currently and how much winning he thinks they'll keep doing in the Pac-12. It's a great point. He's right. But also like security and also the next step up of your program and, what does it look like? The college football playoff is still letting the top 6 in, which is going to be a huge save for the Pac-12 conference champions. But, what does it look like? What is the programs of Stanford and Cal and, how long is Deion going to be at Colorado? Can Arizona actually get over the hump? And is Dillingham the real deal at ASU? And how long can Wazoo? Are they just going to be a middle class? And, how long is Jonathan Smith going to be at Oregon State? Like, there are so many questions amongst Pac-12 schools that the quality there is not guaranteed. The respect top to bottom is not guaranteed. Greener pastures could be available to the Pac-12 schools such as Oregon and Washington, who seem like the ones they have to sign off on this. And that gets me to my final point. Do we really think Oregon and Washington are going to sign off on an Apple TV Plus exclusive deal? Do we think they'd sign off on a Scripps, whatever it is? And let's just, once again, Brett McMurphy, we trust him. He says it. Stuart Mandel says no. But I think while Brett reports it, we have to act like it's a somewhat reasonable thing that could happen because we trust a lot of his reporting. If that is the case, do we think Oregon and Washington are going to be okay? And what price would it cost them to be okay with being on channels like that? These are all legitimate questions. And I think this is the problem the Pac-12 faces. There are more questions than answers as each day passes. They're trying to make it sound like things are crystallizing. They want to stay together. And I think for the health of the sport, guys, I don't want to see conferences consolidate. But that's where we are. I want to see regionality matter. That doesn't matter anymore. The Big 12 conference in the modern college football is going to be exciting because we're hoping that they span coast to coast. And that's now what modern college football is. The Big 10 will have teams from, Los Angeles playing in College Park, Maryland, and playing up in Piscataway, New Jersey. That is where college athletics is heading. It sucks. It knocks out the regionality of it. It's been going on for years now, though, guys. Once again, the only thing that Missouri has in common with South Carolina is they're both located in places called Columbia. But guess what? They're both in the SEC East. That's how this thing works now. It's how it works. It's how it's going. I mean, West Virginia travels more than anybody else does across the continental United States to play basketball and football games. Why is that? Well, because geographically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They make more sense the Big Ten or the ACC, but this is the way the pie is being divvied up right now in terms of where folks are, television dollars, and what makes the most sense. And as we're hearing more and more names involved, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that it sounds like a deal is going to happen for the Pac-12. It sounds like they're determined, like their resolve is going up as kind of the bad news goes up. But it's only going to take one or two to break away. That's kind of my big point on all of this. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at JoshNeighbors_. Follow the show wherever you guys get your podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all those places. Make sure you guys subscribe here on YouTube, leave a comment, like the video as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.